Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. Hello, and welcome to The Culture Hack. Today we have with me Likky Lavji. He is the BS Navigator for the Dante Group, which is an amazing title. So welcome, Likky. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
So tell me about Dante Group and what it means to be the BS Navigator.
Interesting. We were trying to figure out what my title should be for the organizations, and BS, as you know, could stand for blind spots, or BS could stand for the other version that you want to call it. And most people have the other version for sure. And I definitely had some, and still do, throughout my life. So I wanted to help people find it. And so I've focused my business and conversations around that.
Okay, amazing. So Dante Group, you provide coaching sessions. How do you help people find?
I do work with the leaders and executives to bring the teams together, to find all their BS that's in their way to make them thriving teams. And then from there, we do some executive coaching as well. More importantly, we do leadership sessions for the entire team so they're all on the same page.
Okay, really interesting. I love the idea of blind spots. My wife loves to tell me about some of the ones that I have.
Well, that's why they're called blind spots, because you can't see them.
Right? I know. It's amazing. So that's really interesting, because if you have a group of people, you have team members, the different blind spots can show up in different ways, right? Like, what do they say? If you don't know who the jerk on the team is, it's you. Right?
It normally is. It's funny. We get brought into teams by the executive or the leader and says, please go fix my team. I said, no worries. I'll fix the team. We'll work with them. Are you going to be part of that session? No. I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm good. They're crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, let's get into that a little bit. But first, when we talk about engagement, what does that mean to you? What comes to mind when you think about a team that is engaged or not engaged?
To be able to have true, meaningful conversations within the team when things are good and when things aren't going well. Having that trust within the organizations, having the trust within your colleagues, so you can really say what's going on. And that's when the true cohesiveness actually starts happening. What we find is there is such a lack of communication in organizations. They'll talk superficially, but not really what's on their mind. And then that's where things start breaking apart.
Okay, so it's the willingness and ability to really speak honestly about what's going on, right?
Yeah.
The whether it's personally or professionally or project related or whatever, to find the true source of truth as to what is the best path forward, etc.
And speaking it in a kind manner as well. In families and relationships, we have that at home as well, right? We may not speak properly to each other, and all of a sudden the marriage breaks apart. It's the same thing in organizations. If you don't speak truly, openly, with empathy and with vulnerability, it's just the team doesn't get cohesive. They're just running in their own little silos.
Okay, I love that. So, do you have some examples or some stories about, teams that you've worked with that have maybe been dysfunctional and how you've been able to help them kind of have those conversations?
Yeah, so I'm working with a health authority right now where they have the practitioners on one side and they have the operations on the other side. And within each silo, they were having conversations about what isn't working for us. And they really weren't talking about what really isn't working for us. They were blaming the others that they're not working for us. They weren't looking within themselves first. So we worked within the organization's operations team first, work with the operations team, make sure that they were able to communicate truly and authentically about what's actually happening for them, and setting some real expectations and having some empathy in those conversations. And then I worked with the medical team. And once we worked with both teams individually, then we brought them together. And then they were able to actually get cohesive in that organization. Because you can imagine in operations and in the team that actually works with the medical side of things, if they're not talking, you're not delivering the best service to the patients.
Right.
And so now they're able to do that really well.
Interesting. I love that idea of, the two groups it's easy to blame the other guy, right? And maybe your blind spot is your role in this whole thing, potentially. I remember I worked as a consultant for years, and then I moved and worked for an owner company in construction. And my first day in the first meeting, we spent half an hour blaming all the consultants for all the problems. And I thought, this is amazing. Like, where has this been my whole career?
It's always the case. It's always the consultant's fault. Right? The other example I would say is in, like, for example, in car dealerships, right? You've got the finance team, you got the accounting team, you got the sales team, service team, parts team, and they all blame each other. Mm-hmm. It's the other person's fault. However, they don't take responsibility of what they need to do for themselves for the end result, which is a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And
customer doesn't care, right? They see a black box in a car.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. They just want to get the car taken care of and get in the car and drive away. But when things don't go right, it's always somebody else's fault. And the conversations we bring to them is, how do you work together, first of all? How is it a team as opposed to a silo? How do we look at the customer as the actual hero? We're not the heroes, the customer is. And we're just there to get the customer to the next level, which is make them happy and go out in their car. And they may be planning a family trip. But if the experience that we're giving them is not consistent and happy, that first family trip isn't going to be incredible. And our job is to make sure that they're taken care of really well. And that goes in any organization. We all have accounting departments and sales departments and operations as well. So having the teams work together is really key.
Yeah, I really, when I think about these things, we apply so many intellectual solutions. We'll build a process, we'll write a procedure, we'll do a training. But really, I think what you're talking about is the emotional connection, right? We're not going to really talk to each other unless we're connecting emotionally as people, not just as work units, like I call them.
I agree. It is the emotional, but I'll take it one step further. It's actually the self-awareness connection. As we're more self-aware, then we can be emotionally connected to others. What ends up happening is we're not aware. Some of us aren't aware. Actually, most of us think we're aware, but we actually aren't. And once we become a little bit more aware, we can actually have those true, authentic relationships within organizations and within families as well.
Interesting, right? The journey within. So you can't be empathetic until you can understand your own emotions, that type of stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. So, what are some of the first things you do? You're talking to a team or an individual about blind spots. Are there some easy exercises that you get them to do to kind of start thinking about this type of stuff?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because as I first started this journey of mine, it would take me about 3 to 4 conversations to be able to call out the person I'm talking to, their blind spots, because there's no trust built yet, right? So I need to understand who they are and then go through it. So we ended up partnering with a gentleman out of Arizona and came up with an assessment. And it's an 18-question assessment, takes 3 minutes, and it highlights your blind spots right away. It highlights your potential blind spots right away. So once they have this piece of paper, then we go in there and say, okay, look, here's what your potential blind spots are. Here's your style. How does that resonate? And all of a sudden, the light goes on. Oh, I didn't realize I used to do that. I didn't know that. So the conversations about blind spots becomes a lot easier. So once I do that, then I bring the entire team into a room, and we do the assessment. Then we share our potential blind spots with each other, and they understand their styles. So, for example, my style is a connector, and imagine a connector is all about making people-oriented and fast-paced. Whereas if you had an analyzer who's very detail-oriented and task-oriented, if my conversation doesn't match with what they need, we're not communicating. So as I find out what other people's styles are, what their potential blind spots are, I'm able to meet them halfway in the middle and speak with them in their language. And they can understand my language, and we meet each other halfway in the middle. And once we do that within organizations, that allows that conversation to start happening. And then I take them through a proper self-awareness journey. This is just an icebreaker, a real easy way of saying, this is what possibly could be happening. And then we dig deep into it over a 3-month program, if I do the leadership program with them, or we do executive coaching with them and actually work with the teams individually.
Okay, I like that. And I took your assessment and I came out as a competitor, or that was the one that came up. So, what if you meet someone who comes up as a competitor, what comes to mind?
Well, so interesting. So competitors and connectors, they're similar, but yet so different. They just start with the letter C. That's about it. Whereas,
okay, all right.
Connectors are about storytelling. Like I can sit here and tell stories all day long, and never get to the point. Whereas a competitor wants to get to the point. Let's just keep on going. Let's get the job done. And if I didn't know that, and I kept on telling my stories, we just wouldn't get along. Mm-hmm. And a competitor gets really frustrated with people like myself. Is like, what are you saying? Like, what's this story? Why is this relevant? There is relevancy to the way I speak, but it's not always direct. So we need to understand that about each other and then work through it. And I work with many competitors, especially with the executives that I work with. Most of them are in that quadrant, and which is great. That's what they need to be at. But they also need to understand that they sometimes come across as bulldozers. They don't mean to. They just want to get the job done.
Right.
So we need to understand some of these attributes of these styles.
Okay, interesting. No, I really like that. So looking to the future, with your clients, with your companies, do you see this? Are people starting to take this type of coaching, blind spots, self-awareness, or business starting to take this a little more seriously? Is it becoming, more part of their, call it, plans for the future and their strategies? What are you seeing for the future for this?
It's interesting. Over the last couple of years, it is becoming more of a conversation piece, but it's still not resonant in most companies. They're still trying to fix things, and they've tried everything possible. And as I get a chance to speak with them and show them the journey that could possibly change what they've been struggling with, and if they're open to it, it works. And they're actually do transform at that point. But it's not a conversation that happens in all organizations, which is, hey, we need to become self-aware to become a better team. It's like, what's the operation thing that's causing us a problem right now? Let's fix it.
Right. So that's very like...
It's not tangible, right? The self-awareness conversation is not tangible for them yet. And the more we speak with them, it's definitely getting more mainstream, but it's not there yet.
Gotcha. Oh, I like that. Well, fantastic. There you have it. Likky Lavji, he is the BS Navigator. So if you've got some BS in your life, maybe somebody to reach out to. Well, thank you so much for your time, Likky. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.